Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Capital One Bank, Sterling National Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from Amarant Bank, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, B6 Real Estate Advisors, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handro Properties Handler Real Estate Organization, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Catsimatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, RPW Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merringor Family Foundation, and these friends. Education, New York City, that's the key. How do you educate and take care of the students and the people of New York City? You need individuals from the community and business leaders to provide this type of program. So today, with the help of Susan Newman, who's not here, who I will call my executive producer, we've assembled this group of business leaders, specifically in the real estate industry, to talk about how they got involved with public education and what they're doing to help the community and New York City grow and thrive. My guest today includes Charlie Bendit, who's the principal, which is very appropriate, of Taconic Investment Partners. Wendy Mosler, who's the Executive Vice President at Global Holdings Management. And last but not least, Francis Greenberg, who's the Chairman and CEO of Time Equities. That's your full-time job. Now I'm going to ask you to tell me what your other full-time job is. Charles, tell me about Pencil and what you've done involved with the community.
Sure. I got involved in Pencil in 19...
Explain what Pencil is, because...
Pencil stands for Public Education Needs Civic Involvement in Learning. And I got involved in 1997 or 1998 when, after having started my business in 1993, I acquired a number of office buildings, and I saw myself getting to a point financially that exceeded my aspirations when I set up the business. So I said, you know, I have to give something back to the city, and was thinking about where I could give something back and where I could have a meaningful impact on the future of New York City. And a friend of mine introduced me to Lisa Bellsberg, who ran an organization called Pencil. And what Pencil does is it creates partnerships between the private sector and public schools. And I felt that if I could make a meaningful impact on a number of students' lives, that it would help prepare the city for the future. After all, these young people are our future. And if we can ensure their success, we can ensure the ongoing success of New York City. Actually, I just came off the board in December, but I was on the board of directors for 12 years.
But let's talk about some of the programs at Pencil before I pick on Wendy and Francis.
So there are two programs, one of which I started. The first program is the partnership program. So I went in, I was introduced to a school in the Bronx. The first school was Taft High School, which is no longer open. It was a 4,000 student high school. It was broken up into several small schools many years later. And I was trying to figure out what I could do for these students. And it occurred to me that one of the most impactful things that ever happened to me was my father got me summer jobs. And what I learned from those summer jobs is not what I wanted to do, but what I didn't want to do. But I felt if I could expose some young people to the opportunities that are available to them, I might be able to make an impact on their lives. So I started an internship program with 2 students, and they worked in our first building, 1500 Broadway, in the management office. And over the years, that grew to what last year was 500 students. So there were 2 programs. There's the internship program, the summer internship program.
So where do these interns work?
They work at all sorts of organizations. At first, when I started it, I got these kids jobs in the management offices of Cushman and Wakefield, CB Richard Ellis, CBRE, Jones Lang. I got them jobs at law firms, accounting firms, construction firms, and we had 38 kids. I would interview over 100 kids starting in March, and chose 38 and got them jobs, and then worked with them during the summer to make sure that they knew what to do. Many of these kids, they never had a job. They didn't even know how to get to Midtown Manhattan, where their jobs were located. So we had to prepare them for the experience, teach them, how do you prepare for the workplace? And then we kind of counseled them along through the summer. We'd get them together for lunch and talk about their experiences. And then at the end of the summer, I had them write a letter to their boss explaining to them what the experience meant to them and what they learned from that experience. And it's been very, very successful.
Wendy, how do you get involved living on the West Side with the Kaufman Center and Lucy Moses? And tell me and the audience what the Kaufman Center is.
So I was 8 months pregnant with my second child and exploring the community as an Upper West Side resident, and walked into the Kaufman Center just exploring some music access opportunities for my 5-year-old son, and discover what was going on under the roof of the Kaufman Center. It serves about 75,000 people a year walk through the doors. So it's a concert hall with presentation of very cutting edge musical programs. I've been on the board for over a decade. And Special Music School is now serves K through 12.
What's the Special Music
The
School
Special
do?
Music School is a public-private partnership between the New York City Department of Education, which provides the academic education, and we fundraise to provide the music education. And the mission of the school is that music is treated as part of the core curriculum, like math and English.
What about specifically, what is the Lucy Moses School?
Lucy Moses School serves a couple thousand kids in the New York area. It's a community performing arts center, providing programs in music, training, no audition necessary. Probably about half the kids receive some kind of funding that to support the programs. There's Face the Music, which is a large group ensemble which supports both Lucy Moses students and special music students. What we're doing at Kaufman Center is really providing access to a lot of kids who wouldn't have, music is a joyful experience. It's part of the human experience. And through music, they're able to gain access to a very first-rate education. The elementary school is ranked #1 in New York State. The middle school is probably #2. In terms of test results. And a lot of these kids wind up going, a number of these kids wind up going to Juilliard, New England Conservatory, and many elite colleges, and they have 100% graduation rate.
Were you involved with music growing up?
I was not, but I appreciate it. I'm a music appreciator, and to me, that's one of the benefits, particularly with Lucy Moses School. Anyone can attend, and both my kids have and really have developed an appreciation for music through its programs.
Francis, Sports and Education, and New York Edge. Explain what they are.
So New York Edge partners primarily with at-risk schools, but we're in somewhere between 125 and 150 schools now, with the Board of Education to provide after-school enrichment programming. And that programming is a mix between sports, or arts, arts in a broad sense, and academic help or mentoring, including homework and that sort of thing. So it's a sort of 50-50 program that encourages the kids to develop their academic skills, but at the same time gives them a place to be after
Yeah,
school.
this is an after-school program.
Yes.
Okay. Your program is during school and full-time.
So special music school occurs during the day, except for summertime. Lucy Moses School picks up where special music leaves off after
So what happens for
school.
all your programs in the summertime when there's not schools open? What do these programs do? I heard about the internship, but what other programs?
So at Lucy Moses, for example, during July, there's a musical theater program where, again, drawing from kids, they don't have to go to participate in any of the school programs, but from all over New York, they can become a part of the Summer Musical Theater Workshop, which also integrates with Merkin Concert Hall, which has a really wonderful Broadway Playhouse program. And it culminates in a performance at Merkin Hall at the end of July. And then in August, and this is something I'm very proud of, I was, and as a board member, I was able to really jumpstart and be a catalyst for the second program, which is a Summer Music String Fest, where we recruited, let's say, the Harlem Quartet, basically helps teach the kids along with the faculty at the school, and it's an opportunity for the kids to come play music together in a camp, and it also culminates in a performance mid-August. So there's not a time when that building
Francis?
isn't full.
We run major summer programs. I think we have 25 to 35,000 children. It's sports and arts. So it's the same mix of programming that we provide all year long, but it's provided in a summer context and a fuller schedule, and goes on and throughout the boroughs in all of the communities.
We were talking earlier with Charlie on the Truman program, and I also want to talk about what you're doing in the Lower East Side with Essex Crossing in general, because I think it's especially with these people who are homeless, the kids who are homeless.
Well, my second school, the first one I got involved with was Taft High School. And then once I started this internship program, the principal of Truman High School, which is in Co-op City, wanted someone to help start an internship program for her students. So they asked me if I would mind partnering with Truman High School, which I did. While we got some of her students summer jobs, as a matter of fact, one person who started with us as a summer intern now works for us full-time as a leasing manager, overseeing the leasing for 2,000 apartments in the Bronx. We started a number of other programs. The school was blessed by having unbelievable facilities. It was built as part of Co-op City, and I guess that was the great utopian society that founded the development of Co-op City. And Truman High School had unbelievable facilities. They had a planetarium, they had a TV studio, a radio studio, they had swimming pools, diving pools, but none of it was being used. And she said, we need to create opportunities for our young people using these facilities. So I helped introduce her. I mean, I don't know the television studio business. Maybe by being here I can learn something about it. But I connected her with CBS TV, and they helped revitalize the studio. I connected her with the New York City Planetarium, the Hayden well, no longer called the Hayden, it's a Rose Planetarium. And they developed programs not only during the day, but weekend programs in the planetarium. I introduced her to someone who ran a catering business, and they created a culinary program and gave them the supplies they needed to start.
Was that my buddy, Mr. Newman?
That's right, Mr. Newman. Yep, Paul Newman, actually. Not the Paul Newman
Right.
that was a race car driver and actor, but a different Paul Newman. And they did a culinary program. And it really engaged students. Attendance went up, student outcomes improved. So it was fulfilling for me to see that the impact that we were having on student outcomes was quite significant, and for her as well. And as a result of that, it was one of the few large schools that was not broken up, because they demonstrated that they could succeed in improving attendance in the school and outcomes.
Is there an involvement with New York Edge and schools like Truman today?
Well, I don't know whether we're in Truman, I don't think we are, but we're focusing on schools that are having poor outcomes and need to supplement their programming in some way so that the students deliver better outcomes.
About at-risk.
And well, yes, I mean, it's similar.
Right.
It's very similar. We have a major component of children, children of homeless families. So we deal with the same demographic that you were describing.
So how do you do the outreach to the homeless?
Well, there are a couple of first of all, the schools know these programs are available for their students. So it's making the caregivers aware of the fact that there are these opportunities. But more importantly, and here's the connection between the real estate industry and these programs. These programs are in the communities where we own real estate, where we own apartment buildings. And there are opportunities to connect the students, the families that are residing in those apartment buildings with these programs. So we were working with New York Edge. We have some properties in the Bronx, and trying to develop a relationship between schools and finding the schools that are in those neighborhoods that offer the program.
Under the zoning in many of the housing of buildings in different parts of the city, you have to build community facilities. So are any of these community facilities being utilized specifically for Pencil or New York Edge, or even an outreach program for the Lucy Moses program?
So we do have, for example, one example is for the Suzuki program. The Suzuki program with many instruments, either cello, violin, and other instruments. We do specific outreach in the immediate community to Amsterdam Houses, which is a couple blocks away from the center. We go and recruit kids and give them full scholarships for music training, as one example. I think we also think it's very important to be a part of the community. Our kids who are involved in Face the Music, which plays music, they play at Lincoln Center. They go into some of the senior living facilities in the area and do large group concerts and provide culture to the community. So there's all kinds of outreach going on in the smaller community in the Upper West Side, and also to the larger community of New York, where they perform in many
So now let's
venues.
go to the Lower East Side.
So taking the Pencil program, the partnership program, to a new level, we're developing a community on the Lower East Side. Well, we have a responsibility to not just build real estate, but to make that real estate, make that project part of the fabric of the community. And one of the important parts of that community are the schools. So we have partnered with District 1, which is the district within which Essex Crossing is located, and with the superintendent there. Her name is Carrie Chan, very energetic, very optimistic woman who reached out to us to try to develop programs to give her kids opportunities or open their eyes to the opportunities that are available to them. And this is just in elementary and middle school. So we are partnering with District 1. We're starting off with an after-school program with 4 schools. One of the schools, PSMS 188, is right across the street from a homeless shelter. And in fact, 60% of the students at MSPS 188 are residents in that homeless shelter. And so the after-school program will introduce them to health and wellness, to arts, because there are a lot of art galleries down on the Lower East Side, and we're partnering with them. We're partnering with Trader Joe's, with Regal Theaters, with the International Center for Photography, to develop different programs to open the students' eyes to the opportunities that are available to them, but also, interestingly, to help them understand the history of their own neighborhood. Because we're making an impact on that neighborhood, I think it's important for the students to understand what that neighborhood was all about, so they take an interest in their own neighborhood. So we have all of these different programs that we're starting. Each will be a 4-week program, and then we'll have a new 4-week program. We're also involving our architects and engineers to talk about what they do and show the students, what an architect does. What does an engineer do? What skills do you need to be an architect? How were you inspired to become an architect or an engineer or a contractor? It's all about opening eyes, transforming kids' visions about what's available to them.
We have a similar program. We bring speakers to all of our schools from a variety of professional and backgrounds, and just tell the kids about what they're doing to do a very similar thing. So I think there are parallels really between all of these programs.
New York City has a need to create jobs and education for the working people, okay, who are building these buildings. How are the charitable organizations that you're involved with getting involved with that type of labor or training?
Well, I think that from our point of view, since we're K to 12, once kids leave high school and go into specialized training programs, either in college, we do a lot of college preparatory work. That's a big focus of ours, as well as technical skills and technical colleges and other kinds of programming. We're preparing the students to be able to take that step.
Are they getting the exposure to those opportunities? That's why all of what we do is about opening eyes and opening minds to the opportunities that these students have available to them. So they start to think about what they may want to do. At 5 years old, I wanted to be a fireman. Things have changed a little bit. But, I went to the fire department when I was 5 years old, and it opened my eyes. So what we're doing is we're opening these young people's minds, we're opening their eyes to the opportunities that are available to them.
And I think that's well said, and the only thing I would add to it is, for example, with the music education training, it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work. And all of those skills are transferable and portable into whatever field of choice these kids choose to pursue. So that's how we're helping to prepare them.
I heard a remarkable story which I want to share with you. I'm not going to identify who it was, but somebody who had grown up in very difficult circumstances. He was an orphan. He more or less lived out of a car with his mother, or his adopted mother, for several years, and then went through a very difficult period as a teenager, and gang life, and about every possible problem that you could imagine. And then he tells the story. He's now the CEO of one of the largest banks in Florida, and he's been chairman of the hospital, the university. I mean, this is somebody of an outstanding merit. And he tells a story that when he was about 17 or something and his life was going to waste, somehow something that a teacher had said to him 3 or 4 years before, that he's wasting his life, that he's just giving it away, finally rang true from him, and he left this gangs and other negative influences and began to climb back, got his GED, then he went to college, and then had this extraordinary career. So when you deal with poverty, which some of the populations we've been talking about, people go through a lot of trauma, and they don't progress in the way that some middle-class kids do. Not that middle-class kids don't have problems too, but it's a complicated path. And so where that education, where that important mentoring moment, where that important teacher intervention occurs and changes the lives of people, it doesn't always happen in the same way. But when it happens, it can be dramatic,
but I think
and have a very important effect on
word
community.
that you just emphasized is something that all three of the organizations have done: mentoring.
Yes.
Somebody is taking the interest in mentoring that person to the next step. That mentoring is what you got involved with, okay, initially with sports and education. That mentoring was, even though you were in the community, but you knew that there was a need. You, on public education, the mentoring was really important. How do we get people to make an interest and make a contribution and help your organizations?
I think it starts from us. It's our responsibility to inspire our kids, inspire those around us, to care about the communities in which we live.
We have a regular board and we have a junior board where we bring people, younger people, into the organization, into these programs to help perpetuate them. And I would invite anybody out there to contact me. We'd love to have their participation.
Well, we all lead by example. And we, not only by setting an example of what we do, but to let people know that what we do is impactful and does make a difference. So we've introduced our partners at L&M and BFC at Essex Crossing to the schools in our neighborhood. And now more and more of their people are getting involved because they recognize that not only do we have a responsibility, but we can make an impact on the lives of these students. And I think people in the real estate industry intuitively understand that the people that are in our public schools, in our school system, whether it's public or private, they're the future of our city. And if we have an interest in the success of the city, we should take a very active interest in ensuring that those students have the tools that they need to succeed through school and then beyond.
And I think if people follow the example of the three of you and the community, it'll be only great. I'd like to thank Charlie, Wendy, and Francis, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Michael.
Thank you, Michael.